Hello there, this is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space. Today, in honor of Stormalong 2020, I'm doing the Brandon Sanderson tag. Brandon Sanderson is my favorite living author, and I'm just so grateful that this human named Brandon Sanderson exists. Because not only does he write fantastic fiction, but he really gives back to the community in so many ways. He's a writing teacher, he gives away his books for free, he does live streams now, like all the time, he does the Writing Excuses podcast, and he actually brings religion to the table in a way that I've never seen another author quite do it. He knows how to unify people, he's a unifying voice in this time. I know of all kinds of people on the end of every kind of spectrum you can imagine who love Brandon Sanderson. So here we go with question 1. Brandon wrote many novels while working at a hotel night desk. Or was it a motel? If you're watching this tag, you can probably tell me, honestly. What book kept you reading late into the night? When this really becomes tempting for me is when I'm reading something that's not easy. It's a difficult read, but I'm in the right mode for it, and my brain is just working on it, and I'm not distracted. That's when I am most tempted to keep reading late into the night. So for example, when I was reading Democracy in America, and it was just working for me, I really just wanted to keep on reading and reading and reading. Question 2. Brandon's complex magic systems set him apart. What subject do you love to explore in all of its complexity? I love reading about religion and ethics and philosophy, even though sometimes it's like way over my head. That's just really what I'm drawn to. And I love classics that explore that. And if that element is missing out of a book, if there's no like moral or religious exploration, I usually feel somewhat disconnected and bored with it. And it's part of why I love Brandon's work, because he does do the religious world building so well. Question 3. Brandon gets book ideas from watching a storyteller kind of fail to execute a concept well, and he decides, yeah, I'm gonna improve on that. Smug, am I right? But the man's not wrong. What 2 books handle the same concept in strikingly different ways, and which of them did you prefer? I will pick The Devil in the Grove by Gilbert King, which is about Thurgood Marshall. I thought it handled racism and injustice, particularly in the South, in such an amazing way. It was really well written, like a historical account of it. It handled the controversial aspects related to law enforcement and the controversies that sprang up in the NAACP and all kinds of conflicts of the time and of our time, and it handled them with so much skill. I was really impressed by this book, and it was easy to read. By contrast, Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson, who is an attorney who has done wonderful things. You've probably seen the movie. I thought that one, in contrast with Devil in the Grove, there was no comparison. Just Mercy was easier to read, but I felt much less rewarding in the long term. It tried to reach out and make statements all about the United States, and I saw so many things that weren't true, at least in California. The attorney, Bryan Stevenson, worked primarily in Alabama. I thought the main storyline of that book about Walter, that was a horrendous tragedy, and absolutely I think that was a story that needed to be told, but he could have cut the book in half and just told us that, which was something he really knew, rather than trying to like make these broader statements about the US that I don't even think are true, honestly. You just can't say the same thing about California and Alabama. You can't. We have different problems here. And I feel like he was using like a one-size-fits-all approach, when really every state, even every county, is very different. Michael Nip just told me about this article by President Obama. I forget where it was, but I'll link it down below, and I might even put it here for you, where he talks about how it's really important to vote local, because if you have an issue in your local area, you need to vote local and get the right leadership in there to take care of that problem. But like voting for the president, while it is important, will not do the same level of local change that you might be looking for. Trump doesn't have control over your sheriff. So I thought that was a great article, and I feel like you can get the story that you need to about Just Mercy from the movie. You don't even need to read the book, even though I think the book was better than the movie. But if you really just want the story of Walter, which is the core of the book that is important to understand, probably just watch the movie, honestly. And go ahead and pick up Devil in the Grove, because that book, I highly recommend that one, far and away above Just Mercy. Question 4. Brandon was reluctant to read as a child because of a bad experience that he had, where people kept recommending books about dogs who died. I've read some of those books. I love those books, but I understand, Brandon. I get it. Did you have a bad experience when you were younger with reading that maybe made you kind of reluctant? If not, then please share a good experience you had as a child. I'm going to share a bad one, because the redemption arc is huge. When I was in high school, we were supposed to read The Catcher in the Rye, but one of my teachers was like, oh yeah, I just can't handle it again. Like something about the voice. I think she just, So we were given the option to choose something else if we wanted. And so I did. And then that teacher sat down with me later and was like, I hope that I didn't discourage you from reading this wonderful book. It's a great book. You should absolutely read it. And another teacher said the same thing to me. You should really read it. I think you're like Holden. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll read it then. And so I read it and I hated it. And all throughout high school, the classics that we were reading were all modern classics. I didn't understand the base classics that should come before modern classics. I hadn't read very many of those. And so I just didn't have any connection to the reading in school. I really wanted to like them, but I thought I was too dumb. Like I honestly thought that I could not read smart fiction. Modern classics in high school did me no favors. But on the bright side, I did discover Dostoevsky eventually and fell in love completely. That's exactly what I needed. And now we are here, and I'm loving it. Question 5. Brandon does a Writing Excuses podcast that is a collaboration with several friends, and they often invite guests, really interesting guests, like astronauts and writers of color and other minorities, and it's a very interesting podcast. What collaborative project have you read, and what did you think of it? The last, I think, collaborative project that I read was The Best American Short Stories of 2019, and this book blew me away. I didn't love every story in it, but I still would give the collection 5 out of 5 stars. I have a review saved, but I just haven't edited it and posted it. It's a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it. Question 6. Brandon's first book was rewritten into a graphic novel called White Sand, which I really enjoyed. What is a book that you would love to see in another format? I would really love to see Crime and Punishment as like a musical, kind of like Les Mis. I watched a movie adaptation of it and it was like, it's okay. But honestly, I need more. I want more. A stage play or a musical. Question 7. Brandon writes very, 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 very quickly. Who is a prolific author that you would recommend? I don't actually read a lot of prolific authors other than Brandon Sanderson. I'm gonna go with actually 3 options here because I can never just give one. William Shakespeare was quite prolific. I would recommend him. And of course I would recommend Hamlet because Hamlet. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was also quite prolific as far as like short mystery fiction goes. And I'm also going to add Dorothy L. Sayers in here because she wrote 13 mystery novels and translated the works of Dante and wrote theology and wrote plays. I mean, this girl wrote in like every genre. She wrote poetry. I mean, I just love her so much. I would highly, highly, highly recommend her. She's one of my top 5 authors. I should have said her first. Question 8. Brandon's Cosmere Universe books are based in Platonic philosophy. What book or series gets you like really excited about the source material? Because honestly, it really made me want to read Plato when I found out that that's what his philosophy was based on. What? So whenever I'm reading the New Testament and there's a reference to the Old Testament, I get really excited about that. And I particularly love looking for prophecies about Christ, the ones the New Testament writers are using, but also just any references. Also, I was just recently reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe for a project with some friends, and it was so fun going through and seeing all the classical mythology references because like about 2 years ago, I took a class on Coursera on Greek mythology and Roman mythology because I know that a lot of fantasy and science fiction and even other books have a huge basis in that, and that course was fantastic. It was free, I can link it down below. And reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there was like references to satyrs, and the White Queen had some kind of crazy blood mixture. So many fun classical references in there. Question 9. Brandon loves to show multiple sides of an issue and contrast character values. What's a book that handles controversy very well? I feel like there are so many older authors that excel at this kind of thing. Nothing is new under the sun. It's all been written about before. I was just talking to Carla from Raised to Walk and she was like, Irenaeus? I don't know, I'll put it here. He handles in heresies like so many topics that are just relevant. But as far as a book, I'm just gonna say an author actually that handles controversy really well. I would say C.S. Lewis. He stands up really well to the modern day. There are a few things that are a little strange about like maybe his ideas of women are a little bit, but you know, he was a confirmed bachelor until his 50s. But on like most topics, he really handles controversy well. He just has a style and a grace. And again, I feel like that Obama article that I mentioned earlier, that one really handled controversy really well too. I would recommend that. Question 10. Brandon Sanderson is a writing teacher at BYU. And unlike some writing teachers, he posts his lectures online for free. He's doing like his 4th round of this right now, so you can see how things have changed throughout the years. It's amazing. What free literature resources are you grateful for? Obviously, I'm extremely grateful for libraries and Project Gutenberg because I love digging through there. I also just wanted to say that I'm extremely grateful for BookTube. BookTube is free. You can use it for free. You can watch it for free. You can even make money. I'm just so grateful for this community, and I'm grateful for you for watching this video. Thank you. I seriously love you guys. Okay, it's time for tags. So first of all, of course, I'm going to tag 2 of my Stormlong co-hosts that are bogged down in tags, but they've generously not rejected my offer. And that's going to be Victoria from the musical bookworm, whom I love you, Victoria. And also Ryan from Seeking Stories. And I hope Kristen will join you, Ryan. I just love these 3 people so much. All of my Stormlong co-hosts, I just, they're the best. I'll link them below. Check out their channels. You will not regret checking them out. I would also like to tag Tanya at the Sampler Girl because I'm just getting to know her. She's a new friend of mine. She reads a lot of classics and historical fiction and nonfiction, which I really appreciate because I'm always looking for good nonfiction. She just talked about how to be an anti-racist, I think it's called. Anyway, I'm gonna definitely have to check that book out because her review of it made me feel like I would really appreciate that book as well. Tanya is so cute and so thoughtful, and I definitely recommend her channel if you like those genres or even if you don't like those genres, because I don't really read a lot of those genres, but I love her channel anyway. Consider yourself tagged, Tanya. I would also like to tag Brian of Bookish because he's just such a community guy. He really wants to be friends with so many people, and I just appreciate that. And he's mentioned not that long ago that, oh man, I wish more people would tag me. Like, he said it, so Brian, consider yourself tagged. I would also like to tag Ramsey from Rajathon, who is my fantasy book club buddy. He's a fantasy super nerd and also science fiction. And I know that he loves the Stormlight Archives and Brandon Sanderson. If you are a fantasy fan, I recommend you check out his channel and his Discord. There's a great group of people on his Discord and there's always conversation going on. Ramsey, consider yourself tagged. Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. Leslie is one of my favorite new booktubers. She's so friendly and so hilarious and so supportive. When I talk to her, it kind of reminds me of like Caesar Flickerman. Suzanne Collins says that he can turn a weak reply into a memorable one when he's interviewing the tributes. I feel like even if you say something that's like not really that funny, she can just spin it so that it's funny. That's just amazing how she does that. How do you even do that, Leslie? Leslie, consider yourself tagged. So I realize that this is a long shot, but Lindsay Ray just returned to BookTube, and she is one of the primary reasons why I read Mistborn, which was my first Brandon Sanderson book. And Lindsay, if you see this, thank you. Thank you so much. And I have to tag you, even if you don't want to do a tag, that's totally okay, but I hope you see this and know that I am thankful. I have to tag Steve Donahue because he's been so supportive of Stormlong 2020, and for me it was just like so out of the blue that this guy who talks about like the most complex kinds of fiction and nonfiction and reads like so much, and he's a writer and a reviewer, and he puts out videos like every day that are just funny to watch even without a ton of editing. Like, that's really a talent. And I was just blown away that he like started patronizing our little read along. Thank you so much, Steve. If you feel so inclined, please do this tag. I would love to see it. Okay, and I'm gonna add one more at the end here, even though I've tagged you in multiple things in the past, but I love the way you do tags all tipsy, so I can't leave you out. Una and Crypto over at the Codex Cantina. It would be wonderful if you decided to do this. And yeah, no pressure for anybody, obviously. Okay guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching this tag. This was really something that just wouldn't leave me alone. I've been thinking about doing this for months. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. If I didn't tag you but you want to do this tag, please do it. I mean, share it far and wide. I would love to see everybody's answers to this and share the Sanderson love. Okay, take care guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.